Hello! Welcome, welcome. Today's gonna be awesome. We have a really great guest. Her name is Annie Salazar, and she is gonna hop on any minute. I just know it. We did 2 practice getting ons this morning, and guess what? It took us a long time to get her on. Hello! It's so good to see the 3 of you on there already. A little bit about Annie. She lives in Texas. She has some children. Her youngest is 15. Let me see if she's on now. Let me look. Come on, Annie, you can do it. And she has a degree in education, but she's actually never taught school. She just had children and she's just been able to be home. So she's had a teaching degree for like 24 years. Oh, guess what? She's on. Inviting. Okay. And I'll let her continue the story when she pops up. But she's had a teaching degree for 24 years and has never actually taught school. Okay, Annie, you may have to like push whatever it is that you have to push to accept. Come on. Everyone throw up some prayers right now. I don't see a button. Okay. Oh. Well, until then. I'm wondering who left conference yesterday. Annie, there should be like a button. You got to push the button. But did anyone have a favorite talk? Because I did, and I thought of this group, and I thought of all you wonderful humans and the joy that you bring to primary. So I'm wondering if anyone else loved that talk. Joyful reverence. That's what he kept saying. And I was like, yes, this is what it is. It's joyful reverence. Annie wants to join you on a video. Approve. All right, let's see. Okay, we're going to try this. We're going to try it. I don't know why it won't work. Annie, will you get off and then get back on and see if we can make it work? But who else had a favorite talk from conference? Did anyone else? Just me? I know everyone else loved it too. I also had a favorite moment from conference, and it was actually in between conferences, during the World Report. Who watched that? Because there was some really great stuff, but then I almost peed my pants when they started playing one of my songs in the middle, and it was just awesome. It just made me so happy. It was just so fun. Okay, Annie, I'm gonna try. I don't know why this won't work. Is anyone just like a Facebook master, and they can tell us how to do this? I mean, it's not like this is the first one we've done, so I don't know why it is giving us some grief. Will you guys let me know in the comments what your favorite talk from conference was, though? Let's talk about this for a minute. So far, no one's. So far, I just feel like I'm in a room and I'm just talking to myself. It's kind of super lame. Man. Ooh, I do have something for you though. In the chat, I'm going to put a link to something. And I don't even know how to get in the chat. This is funny. This is a disaster. Oh, you guys are in the chat. It just didn't show up on my phone. So many. It's a little button on the left side. Annie, do you hear that? It's a little button on the left side. And she's off again. Okay, tuning in from Ireland. Oh, that is so exciting. I was so excited when I heard there was going to be a temple in Ireland. That was so great. We are making comments. Thank you, Charlotte. I'm so sorry. I don't know why it wasn't showing up on my phone, but it's showing up on my screen. Oh, yes. Kim, I love that. The one sentence testimonies. I love those so much. Catherine, you had a ton of favorites. And yes, all of those talks were so, so awesome. Okay, Annie, I'm pushing add right now. It says it's adding. You may have to push.
Got
Oh,
it.
you guys, it worked!
It finally
Yay!
popped up.
Holy cow. Okay.
Okay.
This is
Let me set this up.
so good. This is so good. All right, in the chat, you guys, is coming a link to a handout that Annie has prepared for us. And funny story about this handout, she actually started working on this in June. So if she tries to tell you that she's not prepared, she's lying, because she really has been working on this since like June. And then there was like lots of like family heavy hard things, and so we had to push it all the way back till October. But she is a go-getter. She is on top of things. I'm hilarious. Thank you. I pretend I'm funny. I like, my husband thinks I'm funny, so that's good. And yes, the link is in the chat. She also in the link has a bunch of links for us that she might reference today. And you guys, she's just so on top of things. I really, really feel very grateful that she agreed to come on our live today. While she's sitting down, is the audio okay for everyone? Can everybody hear all right? All like 13 of us. They'll watch that. People will watch the replay though. It'll be so good. Okay, Annie, can you talk? I can't hear you. We can hear great. Annie's amazing. Can anyone hear Annie?
Now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Sorry. I think I must have bumped the mute when I was.
Oh, I was like, I cannot hear you. Woo, we can hear great. Annie has lots of real life experience. Yes, Annie, will you tell us about your real life experience with this? You told me earlier, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. So will you tell everyone?
Okay, so I have a background in elementary education, and I did teach school just for 2 years, third grade. And once I started having my own kids, I was fortunate to be able to stay home with them. So I have 5 children, and we spent several years living in the Boston area. And Massachusetts is actually the state that kind of pioneered all special ed laws for the rest of the country. So it's a wonderful place to be when it comes to education, medical and healthcare professions as well. Just lots of great opportunities for learning out there. And I became really good friends with my children's kindergarten teacher, and because I kept my teaching certificate current for the last 24 years, even though I haven't been teaching. And I would teach her things, she would teach me things. We were always sharing resources. And as I chose things, workshops and trainings to attend to keep up my certificate, I was fortunate to be able to just choose what I wanted to attend since I wasn't working and had all the time constraints. So I was able to do some research and just found some really good things. I had 2 boys diagnosed with apraxia of speech at the time. And so for 10 years, we had daily therapy for 2 boys, teaching them how to talk. And one of them in particular is quite a little miracle, because we were told to prepare for the possibility of using alternative communication devices just because we didn't know. And unless you're a speech therapist or mom and dad, you probably wouldn't notice so much. He can actually speak very well. And, you know, like all teenagers, at some points we got to where we wished he'd stop talking, you know. So that was just a huge blessing to be back there. And while they were learning to speak, I was also researching how to teach them to read, because it really impacts how they read as well. So I've learned quite a bit about language in general and how the brain works a bit in that particular area, and have just kind of branched out from there since, basically.
I love it. I love it so much. Well, let's just dive in. And if you guys have questions, put them in the chat. I'm going to be moderating the chat and asking Annie so she doesn't have to watch the chat and teach us at the same time. But yeah, throw your questions in there, and any comments or any insights that you want to add, I'll also add those in. So I'm excited. I'm so excited.
Okay, here we go. And so just to be honest with you all, I've been struggling with this because there's so many different areas and things we could cover. And so I've been making plan A, plan B, plan C, going different routes. So what I'm going to do is, I feel like in order to best help these children, we have to kind of be aware of what their whole Sunday looks like. And so I'll be sharing some ideas specific to singing time, and then some others that might be more specific to a different time while they're at church on Sunday, whether classroom or whatever. And so that's kind of where we're going to try to get the big vision there, with kind of how the whole team between the presidency and the music leader and teachers, how you can just kind of all be aware and more observant of some of the behaviors. And as we see some of these behaviors, we can try to pick which types of activities would be best based on the behavior I'm seeing and the need that the child is exhibiting. Because usually their behavior is communicating something that they need. We just don't know what it is sometimes. So that's one thing. The other thing is, several people commented on the title of this, Teaching Children with Additional Needs. And I've even been asked, is that the new term? Do we not say special needs? And no, I think that was actually the title I was given when you guys invited me to do this. So that's what I stuck with. And I do like it because I feel like we all have our own needs. And the point is to learn how to meet them so that we can function daily. And that's just what we're doing. We're trying to learn how to help the children function appropriately in different settings and meet their needs. So when it comes to using the correct terminology, it's hard to keep up with things, and people are very different.
You keep talking. I'm going to go put my dogs away. Can you hear them? They're like fighting outside my door.
So everybody's a little bit different. So some people prefer using the term child with autism or child with Down syndrome, as you see the child first, and this is just a part of who they are, and they don't want to be identified solely by a label or diagnosis. Other people prefer the term autistic child because they feel like it's such a huge part of their identity and who they are. They want it to be recognized, especially as they become teenagers. Sometimes more that becomes more their preference, and for many people it helps them just better understand themselves. A name for it is a relief, and now they can have some understanding. So when it comes to what term to use when or what, I probably won't use everything correctly here, and I don't want to offend anybody else out there, but really the best thing to do is talk to the families, talk to the individuals, talk to the parents, and just tell them, hey, is this appropriate to say or not? I'm learning, I don't know. And because everybody's, no matter what literature says, everybody's so personal based on their own experiences as to whether or not they have a negative or positive association with a certain term. So just to go off of that, we'll go from there. So I'm gonna have to put my head down here a couple of times. Our first little activity, just a quick glance. How many dots do you see? And if you want to reply in the chat, go for it. And then be thinking, how did you get that number? How did you get to that number? Do we have some people replying at all?
Not yet.
Okay.
Maybe they're, oh, Catherine is always so on top of it. 14.
Okay.
14, Catherine, how did you get to your 14? Any strategies? Ooh, lots of 14s. And by counting. I love that. I counted each one. I counted from left to right.
Okay.
I grouped them in groups of 4 for some reason. 4, 4, 4, like, and then 2. I don't know. That was how my mind went.
Okay. Anybody else group differently? Counted across.
Counted each individual dot. Did anyone else group? Was I the one who grouped them? Oh, edges and then the middle. I like that.
Okay. Okay, so now as you're glancing at the picture, be thinking.
I went up and down and not side to side.
Okay.
Ooh, Tammy did it by 2s. Okay, all right. I think we got a lot of answers.
Perfect. So now be thinking, are there any more ways that I could come up with the same number? Did we all get the same number? I think we all got the same number, but we went about it different ways. And so was your strategy correct? Was it efficient? And could there be any more ways? And be thinking, what in the world does this have to do with our discussion today? So we're going to move on from there. You can keep thinking about that. Am I going the right direction? So this slide is already corrected. You should have access to the slides. Back when I made this, it was a different step-by-step process to find this resource on the church website. So this one slide is different. If you go under serve and then callings, and then primary addition, and then additional resources, and then disability resources, it'll then get you where there's an option to click on teaching strategies. And these are several teaching strategies that the church has listed for children with disabilities, but really they are good for everybody. And when they first posted these, I was so excited to see the very first slide said, good teaching is good teaching. Because the more that I researched or tried to find help for a child who's struggling, the more I've just realized, well, this just fits with what we've been taught anyways with teaching, and it works for everybody. And I actually had a mom call me once who said, I just spoke with our kindergarten teacher and she wants me to push this kid a little bit more because he's progressing really well. And she wants me to work on this list of sight words. And she gave me some name for it. And I just nodded like I knew what she was talking about. And then I got home and I was like, what did she say? What was it? And so she's like, what's the name of that? Dolch, Dooch, Dotch. She's trying to remember the name of the sight word list. And so I found her the list, sent it off to her. And then me being me, I couldn't leave it alone. I had to then send her another message saying, well, if you're going to work on this, this is how I would do it. And I gave her some directions to work on it that I thought were pretty simple for a busy mom. And a month later, she came back to me. She's like, I keep meaning to mention it. I was told to work on these words for this twin who is just moving along, and we want to keep him moving ahead. And so I've been using that method, that technique with both boys, the two twins, and the other one, apparently, I didn't know this at the time, was really struggling. They'd read a word, they'd turn to the next page, and it was like it was brand new again. Every time, just couldn't get anything down when it came to reading. And she said he just took off, and he was reading like crazy, and it was sticking. He was remembering it. When he would turn the page, he could remember that word again. And so that was just a fun little example that I always think of when it comes to good teaching is good teaching. It's good for all kids, and those who are struggling, it often just makes it more enjoyable for them as well. So I'm not going to hit all of these strategies on the church's website. I just wanted to highlight a few of them and then dig into some specific needs just a teeny bit more. So the next one on there, and I'm gonna have to remember, sorry, that was the good teaching one. There's a little comic there about a man shoveling some stairs, and the person in the wheelchair is asking him to shovel the ramp. And he says, I've got all these kids waiting here for me to do the stairs. Let me get that done first, and then I'll do the ramp. And the person in the wheelchair says, but if you do the ramp now, we can all get inside. And so that was just a lovely illustration of good teaching being good teaching, how it's helping everybody, so it makes it a lot easier. You don't have to be doing double the work. With attention span, there's one thing I wanted to add. Charlotte already talks about attention span a lot, about varying our activities that we use and varying the songs. I wanted to add one extra thing in there, and that was body position. So when you're switching from activity to activity, also consider choosing a different body position, whether it's sitting in the chair, kneeling on the floor while they're working on the chair, sitting on the floor, laying on the floor, going up to a wall and drawing on the vertical surface there. Whatever, finding a partner, moving multiple times, whatever you can do to change the movement for the child is just the position of the body is just as important as changing the activity. Several of these kids struggle with core strength, and the body can actually only focus really hard at learning a bunch of information or focusing really hard at staying still. And so when a child's really struggling to sit still and they're putting all their energy into just staying still and staying in their seat and not touching somebody else or kicking someone else, and that's all they're thinking about, they're not going to really be able to process any of the information we're trying to share with them. And so we want to give their body some breaks. Even when you're sitting in a chair, your body's not at rest. You've got systems and muscles in your body that are working to hold you upright. So you might see some of these kids slouching. They might always be leaning their head like this. They might actually be turning and pulling their feet up in the chairs or getting down on the floor. They might be popping up out of their seats and just walking up next to you or moving around the room. And this could be a reason why they need a new position to move. And often it's a big when you consider that position, it's moving the head down or up or somewhere else will give them a bigger input in sensing that when you do it. So that was the one big thing I wanted to add with attention span. And then with positive behavior strategies, there is am I going the right direction? Yeah. A handout in that we linked on with your slides. If you got the latest link, there's a bunch of other resources at the end. There's a handout by a BYU teacher who was in the counseling and psychology and special ed department, and she wrote up, I'm not even going to go into a bunch of this because it's just beautifully worded on this little paper here, a whole bunch of ways to set up a positive environment for your class with regards to how you make rules, focusing more on the do's instead of the don'ts, instead of, don't speak without, raising your hand, or don't speak out of turn. You just say, raise your hand when speaking, or, saying it more positively with what they can do versus what you don't want them doing. Also with positive reinforcement, one thing I do want to hit with this is some of these children, things are very hard for them. And we need to recognize and celebrate all those little successes as we go. And that means immediate rewards, whatever it is, whether it's verbal praise, a high five, letting them be a special helper, letting them choose a spot to sit, or a treat, whatever works for them. Again, talk to the families and find out what motivates them the most, because that's where you're going to make a difference. But they need to earn a reward quickly. One time I had a class that was struggling. We had a lot of needs in the room. We had a lot of bodies that needed to be all over, touching everybody. And they were always all talking. They're all just leaning forward and talking. And so we made a little picture of a thumbs up. We didn't even want these kids raising their hands to talk because we knew they'd still be all over everywhere. We wanted them to just bring up their thumbs. We wanted to try to limit the space a little bit. So we made a big picture of a thumb, and there's little circles on here about the size of little stickers, like in the label section in office stores, or those dot paint markers that you can just stamp. And one teacher would have this on the board, and every time we'd ask a question and we saw somebody put their thumbs up, we would put a dot every single time. We had to recognize it was tricky to keep track of. That's why that was basically their only job. And then once this filled up, they got a treat. And the first couple of weeks we did this, they got 2 treats. We'd fill it up once and we had another one, we'd fill it up again because we needed so much practice. And then after a couple weeks, we got it to where we would space it out more, and we only completed this once within the week. So they ended up getting 1 treat instead of 2. And then we spaced it out where we could do every other week, where we would kind of fill up half of this on one Sunday and half on another Sunday. And that's kind of how you help them build up to that. They need to keep receiving the rewards. And once they get to where they're kind of doing it, then we can push them just a teeny bit more and stretch it out a little bit longer in between the rewards. And you can do rewards with individuals. You could do them with a group. Sometimes you even need both. I had one child where we had to set a little timer, a visual timer like this, where you can move it over and it will show you how many minutes. And as the minutes disappear, then they know they're running out of time. They make apps for this. Just look for visual timer, or time timer is one brand. We had to set it for 3 minutes. And every 3 minutes, he got an M&M. We stuck them in a little pill box, and we opened up. He would get to open up the little lid and pull out his M&M every 3 minutes. And then we added another minute after a long time, and another minute after a long time. And eventually we got him to about 10 minutes where he didn't need the treat. He was still using fidgets and doing other things with us, but we didn't have to reward him anymore. He knew how to sit through class.
And I have a question about that. Yeah. Do your children who don't necessarily require extra help, do they throw a fit when they see that some children are getting extra rewards or little treats or whatever?
Right. So what I found is when the rest of the room is engaged at their levels, they really don't so much. There might be initially for a moment, And if that's the case, then work on a group reward too. Work on a group reward. But usually, it just depends. It all depends, and that's something I'd have to like see the situation and know the class. If they're getting the attention they need and that their bodies need, and they're fully engaged, they'll get to where they don't even notice what's going on over there. And we can have a child really acting out and doing other things a little bit, and they're just used to that. They know that, okay, that's how it is. This child needs to move more, and I'm paying attention to this. So it depends on how you approach it. And sometimes you just, one thing, this will be later on, but one thing that helps is having some language to talk about how we all came to earth with these bodies, and we're all learning different things. And some things are hard for me that are easy for you, and some things are hard for you that are easy for me. And we often just, once we've taught that language, and we'll get to that at the end, then we use that language, and we pull back to it, and like, oh, that's what his body needs right now, kind of thing, is how we just talk it off at that moment, and they're used to it, if that makes sense. But it can be a little tricky getting started, and you got to make sure that you kind of know what you're getting into with your group.
Yeah, I mean, my primary we have several children with different needs, and my older children in the primary, I feel like, understand, and they have a pretty good grasp about what's going on and who needs some extra help. But my younger children, right now our primary is grouped together, and I know for a fact that my youngest children would just throw a fit completely if I started just, giving certain people, extra rewards. But anyway, so I was just curious. So thank you for clarifying.
So as a whole room for the music leader, if you were to move that onto the teacher's responsibility, so you're not the one doing it, and then the teacher does it, and they're keeping it discreet. One thing I always had to remember when I was doing these things with some of the kids was we were often reminding them of their space, and that when we gave them something, it's got to be down here. We're just kind of sliding, in your lap, below your face, kind of thing, so that it's not such a big deal, to everybody else. And it is the first few weeks will be a little rough, obviously, doing anything different. You kind of just work through those kinks a little bit as you get going. But I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. That was great. Oh, Kimberly says, is there something else that could be used instead of treats? I think she mentioned talk to the children's parents and see what motivates them. Because some children, that might be their motivation. Some people might prefer a visual reward, or like a physical reward, or some praise, some directed praise. I think it just depends on the child. So I would definitely talk to the parents and make sure they're okay with the treat, and make sure they're okay with M&Ms or something like that. Because I know there are several children who don't do well with dyes. And so I'd be a little bit wary about using, a food that has, a high amount of dye. And then Elaine says, we have a child that is on the 3-minute reward plan. We've switched to color by number pictures. Oh, and is that working well for your child and in your group? I love that. You know what? And I love that you're just catering that to the individual child. I thought about that a lot in conference, and on the past couple of months too, with the focus on the 99 and the 1. And I loved listening and thinking about children and music time when I heard things like that. But I love that you guys are all looking to serve and love the 1. So you guys, good job. You guys are amazing. And Tammy loves that you put it on the teacher. I love that too, because I'm like, I don't know if I could handle everything. I don't know if I could be the singing person and the helping at the board. I don't know if I could do all of it and work on rewards. So I thank you so much for recommending a teacher to do that. That is just the best. Elaine says she's got a treasure box with multiple small items and treats. Okay, I love that. You guys are amazing. So good. All right. Okay, keep going.
So let's see. So we've got, let me see. I'm turned around here. Okay, this is the wait time one. No, we've moved down to schedule. Sorry. Okay, there is a link on this handout. So right below this picture, there is a little link that's, where am I pointing? Right about there, I think. If you click on it, you can go pull up the schedule right here, and they'll even have like an outline template where you can place the pictures into the empty boxes as you go, kind of thing. The children, these children really need structure. All children need structure, but these children really need to know when they walk in a room, they know what to expect. They know who's going to be there for them and what the expectations are for them. And sometimes they just need to know there's an end, because some things are so hard, time is so abstract, and they need to know that there's an end to whatever they're doing that moment or the end of the day, and they need to see their progress getting there. So it's a big deal for them to be able to see the day. As music leaders, that could be as simple as grabbing a piece of chalk on the chalkboard and writing a 1, 2, and 3. Song 1, song 2, song 3, and you cross it off as you go, and they know, they can kind of see how close they're getting to the end of singing time or whatever. Some children might need more than that. They might be nervous about what manipulatives you're pulling out and what you're going to ask of them. And so instead you could have a picture that has, we're clapping, another picture with a melody map, little mini something, and another picture with sticks or something like that. And you have the 3 pictures up there that you then turn over or pull down as you go, so that they know what manipulatives to get ready for as well. So that's just one thing you can do as a music leader. Again, in classroom, same thing, you can kind of break up the classroom time as you go with that. The thing with having a schedule up on a board, it becomes wallpaper unless you're referring to it, unless you're saying, okay, we're doing this now, and we finished this, now we're going to start this. You need to keep referencing it. And for some of those children, they need their own individual schedule right in front of their face. It needs to be closer, right in front of them. So that's another thing to think about as to, do we do it small for the child? Do we put it up on the room? Do we do both? What do we need? There's also another little thing in there that has a first, next, or first, then kind of thing. Where you can move some little pictures as to, we're doing this first and then this, and the child can move the 2 pictures. That's included on this handout as well. So I think those are kind of the main things when it came to schedules and routines. The only other thing would be, consider where everybody's sitting. Some children are not going to like the noise of the piano, or they won't like the comings and goings by the back of the door. Others may not like sitting next to a certain child because that child's always touching them or always talking to them, and they get bothered by it, and then they're complaining about this kid or whatever. So pay attention to the seating and put your adults where they're needed the most. And with some of these children, they may need their own adult, their own aide, and that's fine. And it's okay to give them assigned seating, especially with the younger ones. I find that they need to know when they walk in the room where their safe spot is, instead of wondering, oh, somebody's there, where do I sit now? And having to figure out where they're going to sit. It doesn't seem like a big deal to us, but they're thinking about that and who they're next to. And I just had one thought that I just lost, but anyways, think about the assigned seating. This is what it was. I've seen children come in, even in October, walk into a room, and if their teacher's not sitting there, stand there lost saying, where's my teacher? They still can't find their chair because they're always sitting in a different chair and the teacher's not quite there. So if you can have an adult there before they get there, especially with these hands-on ones, have one of them there waiting, and maybe give them some assigned seating just to get started for half the year. You can, or a few months, and just tell teachers, if you're going to do that we're experimenting with this. We're going to give it a couple months. Let us know what you think, and we can keep tweaking and moving people, as you need. So along with that, did I go in the wrong? Okay, I forgot to show this one. When it comes to rewards, there's a difference between a bribe and a reward. A bribe is to reinforce negative behavior, something not good. And a reward is to reinforce a positive behavior. It's okay to have rewards. The scriptures are full of rewards that we're told about, and we're all working towards those rewards. And that's what motivates us to do things. We're thinking celestially and thinking of those rewards in the end. We can give rewards. The difference is you have to think ahead and plan for them. A bribe is usually the spur of the moment, last minute. desperation, try this, try that, and nothing's working. This will explain a little bit more. Yeah.
With my own children.
We've all been there. We've all, had trouble with it. Sorry, I'm doing this backwards, so I skipped through. I missed the wait time. That's what I missed, right?
Yeah, I know. I was like, I thought I was supposed to do something on wait time, but I'm like, maybe I remembered wrong. You're good.
We're just flying through this. And so, I think what I'm going to just say for wait time for right now, I think, Angie, just because of the time, sorry it took so long getting started, is lots of children struggle with language. So this is where the directed listening is really handy, where you can ask the question, then sing the song and provide the opportunity for them to find the answer successfully. They have time to think about it and process it without being cut off by somebody else quickly before they've even had a chance to think. Directed listening is fantastic for that. Sometimes some of these children have trouble retrieving words, their brains have trouble organizing information, and they need a multiple choice option. And, provide them two choices, this or this, and then suddenly they can get it. They can retrieve what it is they needed to say by having that option placed in front of them. Sometimes when it comes to directions even, I will have them repeat back what they're doing. So I'll say, first you're going to, and they fill in the blank, and then you're going to put away the, and they fill in the blank. And that kind of just helps them remember what they're going to do. And remember, because they have trouble some have trouble with working memory too. And that means it's a form of short-term memory where you can keep enough information in your head for a short term in order to complete the task. So remembering all the directions while you're completing and getting them done. So that's what we'll just do for wait time. Does that sound okay so far with all of this?
Yep.
Any other questions?
You're doing great.
Okay. So then what we're going to move on for the last little bit, this is where we want to do some more song stuff too, is, here we go. Sorry. Now we're down here. Sorry, I'm not keeping slides with this. Okay, so I picked the area of sensory processing because this is an area that all of us deal with. You should all have your little sensory inventory that we sent out with this, where you can look through it, the checklist, as to what helps you focus and what helps you calm down. And this is something that children with autism, Down syndrome, it's something that's very common that they have some extra sensory needs that we need to help address, and it's just something we all deal with. So I chose this one because often these are the kids that are bouncing off the walls that nobody knows what to do with. And with sunbeams, it can look like, well, they're just sunbeams, right? They're young. We can't expect them to sit still. But at the same time, if a certain child's just bouncing around a whole lot more than the other peers, then we might have a little extra sensory needs. We're not here to diagnose at church. That's not why we're here. But we're just trying to arm ourselves and be observant. And when we recognize a certain behavior, kind of know how to help them. So we usually hear about the 5 senses that everybody knows about: sight, sound, touch, taste. What am I missing here? Smell. Did I miss that?
Yeah, okay. Smell. I'm like looking through. It's
okay. Yeah. So there are actually 3 more senses that we don't hear about as much. And that's what I want to give some quick descriptors of, and then some activities that we can use in singing time for them. So one of them is proprioception. So this is basically sense through your joints and your muscles. And this is kind of your brain being aware of your body parts and where you are. And so here's a quick little activity. If you want to stand up and close your eyes, so I'm scooting everything. So if you stand up, close your eyes, and then try touching your nose. Did you find your nose successfully? Okay, now try touching your toes. Did you find them even though your eyes were closed? Now stand up and lift up your one of your legs and touch your heel. Could you find your heel? That is your proprioceptive senses helping you use your body awareness. It's all about body awareness is what that is. And some of these children have trouble feeling that and sensing that. And they're going to be the ones that love to jump. They love to hit. They maybe, are doing things a little harder. When they touch somebody, it's more like a big push or a punch. And to them, it was just a tap because they can't sense and gauge how hard they're pushing or pulling. Some of these kids, let's see, are often bumping into things a lot. They may appear clumsy. So when you do activities with lots of clapping, jumping, and I'm trying to think, I wrote some down here. Anyways, the sticks, doing the rhythm sticks, shaking really hard, anytime we're using those joints. And even before or after singing time, if we can help them do heavy work, which is lots of pushing, pulling, lifting, help them set up, have them help you set up the chairs, help them stack the chairs. We had one child, we would just have him pull down a whole bunch of metal chairs for the whole back of the wall, just in case we had visitors come. And it was a lot of work for him to do, but then he was able to be calm and rest and focus after he did that too.
I love that so much. That is so good.
It's a lot of work. We had to take down a lot of chairs in order for him to set them up sometimes, but it's really worth it for certain children. So one little activity. So if you have, I don't know how okay, I guess instead of standing, I'll just kind of scoot this way. A plastic bag here. So these kids will also like squeezing. So you can use a plastic bag and just make the swishing sound as a manipulative for your song. So for instance, I'm struggling with allergies here, so I'm scared if I start singing, I will start coughing and never come back. So if we are listening to Dare to Do Right, here's some movements that would be good for this type of child.
Can you move the computer over just a little more?
Yeah. Is that better? Oh, and I was going to stand up at one point for this. So.
Dare to do right, dare to be true. You have a work that no other can do.
Now we go down.
Do it so bravely, so kindly, so well. Reaching through this and no story to tell.
Okay.
Dare. You know, I've used a lot of manipulatives in primary. I have never used a plastic bag before, but I love the noise that makes. It is so like satisfying. That is so fun.
Super loud. I saw this in one of our wards. So I'm in our state primary and we get to go visit the other wards, and one of our wonderful music leaders was using these bags one day. So for these kids, the squeezing, the crumpling, and then we'll talk a moment when I bent down and up, it's that head position that we're changing over the midline. When you do your midline activities, think about moving your head way down there and up, because that will help those kids that love to, that's the next sense, swing and move and spin and move all over the place. So, and then the big clap at the end with this. So that's just one idea. But
that was so good. Do you don't know how many hearts and like happy faces went up? Like, you know how they can, like when you were doing that, they were like, yes, this is amazing. All right, keep going, Annie. You're doing great.
Okay. So I think we'll move on from that one. Some of these kids can appear to be really tired or lazy or sleepy, and sometimes it's because of they're struggling with some of these senses here too. So that's just something to be aware of. Okay, so that's that one. Move that one. So then another one, the vestibular sense. These are the ones. So proprioception is your body awareness. The vestibular is located. Senses is controlled with your inner ear. So this is all about movement. It's sensing your body in relation to all these movements that you're making. So these are often the kids that are just all over the place, and it's really hard to meet this need in primary. I'll be honest, very hard, but we can still help it a bit. And often the things that help the kids with the proprioceptive stuff helps the vestibular. Both of them kind of need the same things. Heavy impact on the joints. You can even have them sit in their chairs and push up and just try to hold their body there. You can all give that a try. Just push up and hold your body there. Just push up on certain words, when you're singing a song, and then rest, and then push up on this word. You can do that. For the vestibular ones, a lot of them like to swing. Think of the kids who are always laying on the chairs they're laying horizontally,
Well,
maybe upside
I have
down.
some kids. I had a child that would rock like this,
Mm-hmm.
and I wonder if that was the sense that she needed, was a swinging. She's in Young Women's now. Now I feel kind of bad, but yeah, she would sit there and rock. She'd rock all through sacrament meeting. I mean, she functions pretty typically, but yeah, she would rock all the time.
And so that's where like a little wobble cushion can come in handy that they can sit on. And while they're sitting, it's filled with air and they can kind of move around a little bit more than they could in just the chair. I had a sunbeam class where, when our presidency was put in our ward years ago, we were put in like 2 weeks before the primary program or something. We had 4 sunbeams. I went out and bought 4 wobble cushions because this was a class that we had 4 children and needed 3 adults for the year. So,
Wow.
and, you know, it's handy. You do whatever you can do. They need to move a little bit more. So and one idea with that, I'm going to pull up another song. Think of the activities, think of songs with long words, and when you're doing body motions and rhythms and actions, find the words that are held longer and have them spin around. So we'll bring the world his truth. I was going to play that one for the chorus. Let me find it here. I'll play it right here. You could do stick, long, short. I can't talk and do it at the same time. Hold on. I'll get the last word. We'll spin. And you spin around on truth. So youth and truth. I messed up there trying to get to that.
No, you're okay. You were actually frozen right in the middle, so we didn't see you mess anything up. I think you did it perfect.
Perfect. So that was just a long short for the younger ones. For the older ones, we would do like a more complicated pattern for the song, and we go, we are as the army of Helaman, and we just kept repeating that. But then once we got to truth, we'd spin around in a circle, and youth, we'd spin around in a circle. So adding some spinning.
I love that. And I mean, it's such a simple addition, you know, but for these children, it can make a big difference. And I just love that it's small things. It doesn't have to be something big and grand, you know, it's the little things that we need to think about.
So here's one more. So Charlotte already has an example of arm swings for Away in a Manger. And I'm just going to play this one, and maybe you'll notice what I do differently. Let's get past that. So we want to make the movements bigger at sometimes. So this is about the same. Or squat more. Get them down lower if you need a bigger movement. You can even swing the head. Here we go. This is the change. Big arm. So I think she did a sleep and then a little circle. Probably fits the music better, but we're going to do big. We're going to do a sleep and then a big circle with the whole arm instead of just the little hand. So that's another way. Get them squatting, get them bringing the head down with the swings and big arms.
Okay, and Charlotte's got a question. She says, why do we spin again? I'm just wondering if you could hit on that just a little more specifically.
This is the one that's hard to understand. And I did send some more video links to understand some of these things. So the vestibular sense is the inner ear sense, where we're dealing with recognizing where the body is in motion in space. So and balance kind of things. So for lots of these kids, they need to feel grounded a lot of times. So think of the kids, little chairs. The little chairs don't get used enough in primary rooms because it's so hard to switch them out. They need to feel their feet on the ground, one thing. But these kids need to move. If we spun around in 3 circles, we'd get dizzy. Some of these kids would not. They could spin around 20 times and never get dizzy. They can't feel the movement. So these movements that we do, we feel them, but they don't. They have to feel them bigger, harder, longer. And a lot of times that involves, for some reason, the way it's exhibited, they're seeking it out by hanging upside down, spinning around on a chair, lots of swinging. They got to feel it all super big. Mm-hmm. So we're just trying to add some more spinning and swaying bigger so that they can actually sense it.
Yeah, that makes sense. One of my very, very best friends, I won't mention her name, but she knows who she is if she watches this. She's in this group. But inside of her home, she has 3 children with autism and various other learning disabilities. And they definitely are always seeking out big movements and impactful movements. I mean, you should see these kids do like Ninja Warrior and parkour. They are absolutely phenomenal. But inside their house, she has big swings where these kids can go because they really do crave that movement. And anyway, so that's just what I thought of. But Charlotte, did she answer your question? I thought that was great. Thank you.
What's fascinating as I was learning about this with an OT is think of people who love roller coaster rides and people who absolutely can't stand them. You can actually retrain your brain. Let's say you can't stand them. There are ways to retrain your brain so that you can tolerate roller coasters. Usually people don't care enough to go seek out therapy so they can enjoy roller coasters, right? But you've got kids who love roller coasters and their whole day is a roller coaster and the parents are like, sit still, I don't know what to do with you. We're usually working on trying to help them tone down. We're trying to wake up their senses so they can feel it, so they don't need so much of it, so they can feel it when we would normally feel it.
Oh, that's awesome. Charlotte just added, the first purpose of the vestibular system is to tell us where the body is in space. The second purpose is to listen. So we have to address the body in space. I love that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. You guys are so good. You guys make my job really easy. I just get to sit here and repeat things. Okay.
So this last sense is interoception. And I'm not going to spend much time on this, but these are the kids who have to go to the bathroom all the time. And they're just trying to get out of things. But really they can't sense when they need to go. They think they need to go, then they go and find out they can't go. Or they can't feel that they need to go until they've only got 2 seconds to go and they're going to have an accident. So this sense is sensing, being aware of the feelings inside your body and your organs, recognizing when you're hungry. I know a child who never feels full. So the parents have to cut off food at a certain point and be like, no, you've had enough. Others are, feeling thirsty. If you feel car sick, some of these kids might get car sick. Some are very aware of their heartbeat. And so a lot of times kids that struggle with this are very anxious. They're very aware of their internal senses and very anxious. So that's just one thing to be aware of if you have a child constantly asking to go to the bathroom or other things. They're just not sensing, temperature, hot and cold, even pain. They may not feel pain. They're doing things bigger because they can't quite feel it or sense it, or maybe they're always in pain. Just the slightest touch, certain clothing, they don't like the feel of as well.
It's so interesting because my same friend, her children don't ever feel hungry, so they just never eat. And so she has to remind them, okay, you have to eat. And they're like, I'm not hungry, but you need food. It's just really interesting. But I was going to ask you, what ways can you help a child like that in primary? Is there a specific?
So with this is the one sense I don't have as much experience with, but basically I think when it comes to the touch stuff, we can feel that. When it comes to the hunger, the thirst, the bathroom stuff, all we can do is just be observant and not too quick to judge. When we see behaviors that we think are because of something else, just kind of go with the flow. And then I, again, reach out to the parents, say, hey, I was noticing this. Is this how it usually is? What can I do to help? So we're not going to the bathroom as often, or, whatever it might be. That's a tricky one because
Yeah.
it's a little tougher
Yeah.
to see.
I love that advice to talk to the parents
Mhm.
and get advice from them. And they probably know how to better help their children. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So real quickly, so with all these 8 senses, our body's constantly processing them. And depending on how much sensory input we're getting, we either have too much or too little. So we're either seeking out more or we're avoiding things. And whether it's they don't like touch, they don't like certain sounds. With it, some children don't like the sound of sticks. I like little straws. They have this cool little hollow sound. Or use pencils when you're doing. You can use pencils, but these proprioceptive kids and the vestibular kids, they need the heavy big sticks. They need to feel the weight and feel the impact and hear the big sound. They need it bigger. Think of kids, people who love to go to movie theaters. You go to the movie theater and you've got big booming sounds. You can feel the vibrations. You've got big picture. You can't miss it. You're often eating. You're getting sensory input by eating, sucking straws, sucking through straws, sucking, chewing, blowing are also considered forms of heavy work that can help wake you up and get you going or help keep you calm. So when your body's sitting through a movie theater, we've got all these other senses that are being met that help us sit still, because we can even move or lay down or recline in the theaters or,
So, Annie, question. What if you have the child who doesn't like a lot of noise and the child who needs a lot of high impact? What if you have them in the same primary? Help me with that.
That one's tricky. So depending on what the need is, I would say we usually don't have, when it comes to the children with the sticks, they need to feel it a lot with the body. They don't necessarily have to have the big booming noise when we're in primary. So I wouldn't worry about providing booming noise. I would focus more on the child that can't stand that, because it's like pricking them with needles. It's painful. They can't take it. So again, focus on your location in the room. If you need to, ask them if they would like to step out of the room. They may not like bells. Bells are really loud. I don't use certain
I think
bells
are loud.
Yeah, they may not like that.
I like chimes better.
Yeah, just go out in the hall. Maybe that you have something for them to do right by the door. Maybe somebody takes them for a short little walk and they come back. Maybe they don't mind listening to it just through the door, and that's sufficient.
Would
so
you
I
ever
would
bring
focus on
like headphones that help with that,
Mhm.
or anything like
Yeah.
that?
So yeah, you could use earplugs. You could get noise canceling headphones. Odds are, if it's really bugging them, they probably already have something at home. So just ask the parents, ask them, and then they're like, "Oh yeah," and then they'll start sending it.
Now you just said the same thing. Maybe their parents have earphones. Yes.
Exactly. So yeah.
You guys know so much. I love this. Okay.
Okay. So here's a quick picture. Imagine for all of your senses, you have a cup, and every time we receive sensory input, it's getting filled up. And we can function well when our cups are full. When our cups are not full or they're overflowing, this is when we have trouble functioning. So if you were to look at this, be thinking, what would this child need? And this one in particular, let me put another slide. If it's got a large cup, it means that's something they're going to need a lot of. However, in this moment, if the large cup is pretty full, they're good. So in this picture, we've got a large cup that's empty. This is the kid that's going to be swinging, bouncing, spinning, hanging upside down, constantly moving, and not in their seat. We need some of these big movement activities for them. When you're planning, so when I had a primary once where we had a bunch of these needs in there, I would always start with a big upbeat song. We would do 4 songs, upbeat, slow, because we needed to get moving quickly as soon as they came in. Even at one point, all the sunbeams would always have something in their chair to use the second they came in, even if they were just holding a little yarn ball or a color sheet or whatever. Some stickers, peeling stickers, help them focus and put some stickers on an initial, their initial or something. Lots of movement for these. This particular person would also need to enjoy touching things. The envelope games, putting pictures in order, or puzzles would be a good one for this one. Basically, realize that we aren't thresholds and tolerance, and so that's how you want to look at each child. What are they doing that's inappropriate? And how can they get that same sensory input in an appropriate way? How can I make it look different for them? Or which song activities can we use? And when their cups are overflowing and they can't take it anymore, this is when they get stressed out, fight, flight, or freeze. And there's a big difference between a tantrum and a meltdown. I'll move through these. There's a whole list of behaviors on there that are really good to look at for fight, flight, or freeze. But when it comes to a tantrum or a meltdown, there's a difference. A tantrum knows what they want, and as soon as they get it, everything's fine again. It's extremely controlled. They can verbalize and tell you what they want. Throw themselves down in the store, scream and cry. The meltdown, nothing can fix it. Like, no matter what you do, even when you think the problem's solved, they're still crying. They're just fully overwhelmed. And really the best thing to do is just remove them from that situation and find a way to calm down, whether it's in a blankie or in a dark room or just stepping into the hall and then waiting till they're ready to come back. So that's one of the best things you can do for these children who are overwhelmed during primary. And then I keep going the wrong way. So I did bring a few fidgets to show, but really I know there's so many you can look up. This one is a popular one, the infinity cube, that just keeps changing. And this one, I don't know why, everybody loves this one. I've seen so many parents go out and get this one. There's a picture with a name on it on the slide. They love this one. Doing magnets, you know, if it's not too loud, pushing and pulling magnets apart and together is something else that's fun for them. If you have a hole punch, I wouldn't use this one, but I couldn't find my little mini one. Pushing is a good thing, squeezing and pushing, or popping bubble wrap quietly. Just having this little square that they just push. That's some heavy work where they're pushing and pulling, and really good for some of them. One other really popular fidget is this squishy cheese where the mouse goes in and out of the holes. They love this one, but just store it in a bag where you can keep it clean or it gets really yucky. So that's just a few fidgets. You can use a whole lot of different things. And one thing to pay attention to and remember is when you're doing these heavy work activities and trying all these different things, and maybe it goes well one day, it may not go well another day, because every day's sensory input is different and you don't know what's happened before you got them and until, you know, or what's happening after. And, you know, we know we're getting them from Sacrament where they're having to sit lots, but so we're trying to provide ways to move after sitting so long. But don't give up on some of the things you're trying, because it's going to vary from day to day. And if you do something and it's working for a while and it stops working, don't fully give up on that fidget, that movement, whatever it is. They may need it more often. They may need to do it for a longer period of time, or we need to change the intensity. I love using therapy putties where you can pull out silly putty's the best to start with. It has its own little container. But if you need something tougher with harder work to push through, give them a little ball of some theraputty, put one or two pennies inside, and they have to dig and find it, or teeny little Legos or miniature whatever. They love digging and finding stuff. It's one way to get heavy work without having to move all around the room. And one other way of getting heavy work is using TheraBand, tying it under the chair that they're sitting in, and they can kick their legs and push against it. They could even do it to the beat of a song if you wanted, where they're pushing against that resistance band. So that's just one other thing there. And I think that's probably pretty good. The other slides are just mentioning that it's important to label things for them. So this is one terminology I use with the children. Our bodies are like engines, and sometimes we're running high, sometimes we're running just right, and sometimes we're running low. And when we're running low or we're running high, what can we do to get our engine just right? And this is where you help them recognize what they need by modeling out loud. Oh, my engine's feeling really sluggish today. I'm feeling really low. I don't really have any energy. I think I need to get up and, you know, and move. Let's do the Church of Jesus Christ, you know, let's sing that, and we're going to jump. We're going to jump on every beat and turn around and jump the other way. Modeling out loud how you're meeting your needs so they can learn to recognize and eventually verbalize what they're feeling and what works for them. And this is where we'll sometimes say, oh, well, that's what his engine needs right now. His engine needs something for his mouth. or his engine needs to move, so he's going to move in this space, but he won't get in your space. Well, you know, he knows not to come to your space, kind of thing. So that's some terminology. You can look up the alert program. That's kind of where this terminology is all coming from if you want to learn more about that. But I think that's kind of it. Along with that, just recognizing the doctrine, labeling things, label things, be very specific with what you want, be very specific. When they make a comment and blurt out and share, it's okay. Thank you for sharing your testimony with us. That was your testimony you shared, and just helping them recognize and label things, whether it's doctrine, feelings, Holy Ghost, even what a reverent behavior looks like. I don't know, is there anything else? I'm kind of skipping through those. Am I still on? Okay. And just be thinking, looking at your dots, what does this have to do with everything? Basically, you can hear me, right? Yes. Okay, got it. So there's lots of ways to get to the correct answer. There's lots of ways to get to our end goals. Some are more efficient than others. It always and it depends on the child. Some children can only count by ones. We're not going to expect them to see a group of 10 and know that it's only, you know, that if we take one away, then there's not automatically 9 left. Or we have to start with where they're at, and then make those little baby steps as we move along. And so there's lots of right ways to approach things, and some of it will depend on the child, some of it will depend on that day. Every day is a little, you just have to start with where they're at and go from there and celebrate every little teeny little success along the way, because it is slow. It is slow making progress, but if you look, there'll be lots of little successes you can notice as you keep working on it. We good? Oops. Well, thanks. I'm happy to answer other questions in the future if somebody has anything extra. So thank you for setting this up. Thanks, Angie.